Hi guys, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to my channel. I wanted to make a video today because I realised that over the last year I have been pretty absent from YouTube and I haven't really made much in the way of content talking about what's been going on with me, which is definitely bizarre because I think honestly that this year has been one of the most life-changing years I've ever experienced. It's been an emotional roller coaster. There's been some major highs but also some major lows as well, and I think that going forward, if I'm going to continue to make content on this channel, I need to make a video talking about the things that have happened and just where I'm at in my life as of right now, because I think that it wouldn't be wise for me not to update you on what's going on. I do realise that not everyone who follows me here on YouTube will follow me on my other social media, which is something I always encourage if you want to keep up to date with what I'm doing, to follow me on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, because that's where I post a lot of my regular updates and things like that, because that's where I have time to post. I want to start off by talking about what's been happening this year and why I'm making this video right now. So the reason I'm making this video now is because I wanted to tell you about some really important, very amazing news that I have to share with you all, and that is I have a job. I'm now a journalist. I finally have my dream job. I have the job I have been wanting since I graduated from university and long before that. I will come on to that later on, but that's to pretext what the major part of this video is going to be about. But before I get into that, I want to talk to you about what's been going on throughout this year. So let's do a bit of time travel and go back to January. Now I need to first of all talk about one of the most difficult aspects of 2022 for me. Like I said, this year has had some major highs and some major lows, and for me one of the biggest things I've had to deal with this year was the loss of my guide dog Unity. Now I know this probably comes as quite a shock to quite a lot of you because I have not posted about Unity on my channel. I have not made a video notifying anybody about her passing, mainly because when it happened I was so emotionally scarred by it. I was traumatized, I was really devastated, and the last thing I wanted to do was to make a video talking about it when I was trying to heal and trying to come to terms with what had happened, and I felt that making a video at that time would have just been like reopening wounds, and I was just not prepared for it. So Unity, as you know, had cancer. She had a fast acting tumour that was a mast cell tumour, and it was intermediate to high grade. To be honest, at the time when it happened, none of us were expecting it because she was on medication to stop it from growing, and she was going to be on it for a further 11 months and then she'd come off it, and then we knew that things may change in the future in terms of her health. But honestly, I don't think any of us were ready to say goodbye to her yet. I don't think anyone's ever prepared or ready for grief, but I think that I especially wasn't, because I just did not think this was going to happen. She got sick, she got a lump on her leg back where the previous mast cell tumour had been removed. Within about 2 weeks of finding this lump, it had grown so big that she could not walk on her leg anymore, and she could not physically walk to get up to go to the toilet. And honestly, it would have been unfair to have put her through any pain, because we knew we'd have been doing it for our own reasons and we just didn't want to do that to her. Unity deserved better than that, and Unity was a dog who was very active. We had to make the heartbreaking decision to say goodbye to her and to let her go. Her death hit me in so many ways. I've lost a few people over the last few years, as you know. I've dealt with loss, I've lost friends, I've lost my nan, but honestly Unity was a big part of my life. She was a big part of my journey. She saw me grow up. She was there through so much heartache over the last few years. She was there for some of the most biggest things of my life, like my graduations, my first job, my second job, so much emotional trauma that I went through, and she was a big part of my journey, a big part of my growth, and a big part of who I am now. And to lose her was honestly just absolutely awful. I am healing, but it's just taking its time. But I just wanted you to know that's a major reason why I've not posted much this year, because that's what I've been dealing with. For any of you who may be wondering why I was so absent without any reason for such a long time, that's why. Unity was not a dog who liked seeing me get upset. She did not like anybody crying. She did not like anyone being down. Was not her vibe. So I owe it to Unity to be happy and to do what I want in life and to continue my journey with my next guide dog Rosie, who I have now, and to move on into the next stages of my life. So I thank Unity for all she's done for me and her amazing service to me over the years, and just know that I will never forget her, and that she was honestly one of the most special dogs to ever come into my life, and I could not be more grateful for everything she did for me. So since losing Unity over this last year, I think one of the main things that I've done this year is to immerse myself into my journalism work, my freelance work, my content creation, and I've been trying to work on lots of different projects and writing projects. I've written for some great publications this year, including Possibility Magazine, Enable Magazine, Possibility Horizons. I have written for the Metro several times this year. So many different publications, and honestly that's been a really great thing for me because I've been able to boost up my portfolio and get an even bigger portfolio than I already have. Additionally to that, I've also been studying for a qualification in journalism. So in the late part of last year, I was accepted onto a course which was in partnership with Ability Today, which is a disability charity, and the NCTJ, which stands for the National Council of the Training of Journalists, and they put together this collaboration where they offered disabled people the chance to study for a certificate in foundation journalism, which essentially is the basics of journalism. It's kind of like the first step into the journey of journalism, and it's the first qualification you can get with the organisation. And this year I was just very determined to get it finished, and I spent a lot of the early part of this year into the middle part of this year studying for that and doing the coursework for that and going through all the various examinations to get my certificate, which I did get. I got that in July this year, and that was fantastic because it meant that I had the first qualification that I needed as a professional journalist. These courses can be quite expensive, and to be able to study it and to get the funding for it was fantastic, and I really enjoyed the experience, and I'm really grateful to have had that first step into journalism and to have had that basic level training, because I think it's really helping me now in the job that I have. I've also done so many other things as well. I've worked with some amazing brands this year on accessibility awareness and accessibility consultancy. I've worked with brands like Ariel and Starling Bank and so many different brands on their accessibility projects. I've done some great content creation projects, and I've really had the chance to be taken seriously as an influencer this year, and I feel like I've had so much scope to work with brands and help them improve their accessibility and to make their products more inclusive, and that's been fantastic because honestly I love that kind of work. It's one of my main passions in life, and to be able to work with brands on these projects and to help them make their products more inclusive is a really great opportunity, and it's a real privilege to be able to be seen as a spokesperson for my community and to hopefully make people's lives a bit better. So I've really enjoyed doing that this year, and I hope I can continue to do that well into next year. I've also done quite a lot of charity work this year as well. So I have worked a lot with guide dogs. I mean, it goes as no surprise because I have a guide dog obviously. I helped to launch their Open Doors campaign, which involved a new app where guide dog owners in the UK can report if they're ever refused access to somewhere because they have a guide dog, and I helped launch that. I've also done some fundraising projects. I took part in a lobby at Parliament earlier this month to raise awareness of some of the issues that guide dog owners have with local MPs, and I also took part in the St Paul's Carol concert this year as well to mark their 90th year since they've been a charity, which was great. And I've written for the Inside Track magazine for guide dogs because Unity now has a puppy named after her in her memory, which is absolutely incredible. So I now write as a columnist for that on occasion every year. I've also worked with charities like Leonard Cheshire on their hate crime campaign this year, also RNIB, which I also had the job with this year as an intern. I'm really glad I've been able to continue to do charity work this year, and I'm really pleased that charity work for me has made a revival since COVID, because I feel like when COVID happened, I wasn't really able to do much in the way of charity work and volunteering. You know what? I might not be able to run a marathon or climb Mount Everest or do anything physical like that because of my illness, but I can use my words, my voice, my experiences and my other skills that I have to try and help raise money or awareness for a charity, and to be able to do that is honestly it's a nice feeling. So I'm happy to say that I've been able to do a lot of charity work this year, and I hope to do more of it next year as well, depending on what happens with my career. Now I want to get on to the main part of this video, which is to discuss my new job. So as I mentioned, I am a professional journalist now, and honestly to be able to say that is such a strange feeling, because honestly I did not ever think I would get here. I have been wanting to be a journalist for many years, going back to when I was at school and I used to write for my secondary school's magazine, because honestly I just love to write. I love storytelling, I love telling stories, I love finding stories, and that was honestly one of the things that I really wanted to do, and I think that it was just something that I was so passionate about. But trying to get into that field is very hard, and it's also very competitive. I'm a trainee journalist for NewsQuest London. Now NewsQuest is a big media organisation, and they have various different newspapers up and down the country, and I write for the South-East London titles that NewsQuest have. Now I am a local journalist, so I write about local news, so lots of different local affairs and local issues involving councils and local government, schools, local public interest stories about people, stories about housing, stories about pets, you name it, I'm writing it. So it's so varied. I don't have a niche. I get to write about so many different things, and honestly I love it, because I don't think you can ever get bored with a job like that. Now the way that I got this job was honestly, for me, I think an example of how if you put yourself out there and if you ask and you make connections, you can get somewhere. I had been doing some masterclasses with Ability Today that they offered, some free masterclasses with a number of different journalists, and I did a masterclass with a journalist who writes for one of NewsQuest's publications. I mentioned at the time that I really wanted to do some work experience, and if there was any scope to do it. I had been offered the opportunity to write for the News Shopper for a day as work experience, so that I could get some understanding of what it was like and write some pieces. And I did a day's work experience with the News Shopper, and I wrote 3 stories for them over that day. I remember seeing the editor who I'd worked with at the time post that they were offering trainee journalism and senior journalism opportunities at NewsQuest, and they wanted to hire new people. And I'd said, well, I don't have the qualification, the diploma, which I know is pretty much a gold standard. Do you think I would still be considered? And she said, well, we'd like you to have it, but it's not mandatory to start the job, so just apply for it. And I thought to myself, well, I'll just go for it, because I'm under the impression in life, if you try something and you don't get it, at least you can say to yourself, I have tried it, I have tried to get that, I have tried, I have asked, I have tried to do something, and if I don't get it, I can at least say it's not through want of trying. So I applied for it, but I didn't think too much about it, because at the time I had actually just started an internship with RNIB. Now this was a 12-week internship under their See Differently scheme, and I was writing for the Stories Library, and I was helping them to collect and gather stories from different people who use different services and who'd volunteered for the RNIB as an archive, so that people could use them in different ways, whether it be press or different departments in RNIB. And I did enjoy that work. That was, I think, a really good idea of what it would be like for the job I'm in now, and I really enjoyed the whole time I worked there. Then halfway through my internship with the RNIB, I actually did get offered an interview with NewsQuest, And I had the interview with my now would-be manager at the time and several other people, and I had to prepare some examples of stories I would write and how I would do it, how I would look for stories. They asked me practical questions about what I would do in situations that would involve legal issues, and evidently the interview went well because I got the job. But they asked me questions about what I would do in practical situations that would involve legal issues as a journalist. I had to prepare some examples of stories I would write. I have hardly had any interviews over the last few years. I can count on my hand the amount of interviews I've had in the last 5 years, which is actually quite shocking. At the same sort of time, I had written an article for the Metro. On occasion I write opinion pieces for them, and this particular piece was on my experiences constantly getting rejected and knockbacks to work as a disabled person, and about the struggles I'd had trying to find full-time employment as a disabled person and how that made me feel. I was very open about them all in this piece, and I was really bearing all because honestly at that point I was feeling so emotional. I was really just grappling with so many feelings of low self-esteem and doubt, and I wanted people to know how it felt to be disabled and to constantly be told no, despite the fact that I have a degree and a master's degree and all this training and all this experience and all this willingness to show my capabilities, and just no one would take me on. And I had written this article and I was very, very, very open about it. And I think a lot of people had seen that. It got a lot of attention, a lot of different charities had seen that, a lot of different people had seen that. Some of the comments were from people who were so ignorant, like people who honestly thought that being disabled was a viable and reasonable excuse to not be offered a job, but also people saying that I wanted special treatment because I'm disabled, which kind of was a bit weird because either people were saying I was too disabled to work or that I was perfectly able and that my capabilities weren't there and I was just using my disability as an excuse. So it was kind of like a catch-22 situation, and honestly those comments really kind of made me feel like, wow, is that what people think when they think of a disabled person trying to get into work? To be offered an interview for the job I've always wanted was a little bit intimidating, but honestly they said afterwards that I had performed very well and that I'd answered the questions well and that they were really impressed by my extensive portfolio. And 4 weeks later I had handed in my notice for RNIB, but also my job at Lush, so I sadly no longer work at Lush either. And that was that. I was ready to start my new employment. I've now been working with them for almost a month, and honestly it's been a great experience so far. It's definitely been a learning curve for me because I've had to apply for access to work for the first time ever. That is taking its sweet time. It's a very long-winded process. I can now see what all of you disabled people were saying to me when you said access to work is a nightmare, because it is. I have my interview with my advisor on the 30th to get all of my stuff sorted out, but they're a really nice team to work for. I'm really enjoying the experience. I'm getting to write about so many different things. They're also funding me to do a diploma in journalism as well with the NCTJ, which is fantastic, and they're also giving me a paid day to go and study. So honestly, I just feel like this is the job that I've always wanted, and I think this is the best kind of training to get as a journalist. To have a job where I got it off my own merit, and also the fact that they liked my portfolio, was honestly really great. I feel that I'm leaving 2022 with a spring in my step, a smile on my face, and a new sense of confidence that I never had before. I think that over the years, trying for jobs like this and getting constant knockbacks really had an impact on my confidence and my self-esteem, but to finally get the job that I wanted on my merit and on my portfolio and my skills and how I interviewed has really given me the confidence that I needed. And honestly, I feel that 2023 is going to be a year that I really grow in terms of my career and my abilities. I still want to continue to make videos as and when I can, but I can't stick to a schedule like I would have done years ago, and I'm going to treat this like a hobby and make videos when I feel that there's a reason to. But if you still want to keep up to date with any of my content, please do follow me on my social media channels, because that's where I always post what I'm doing and what I'm getting up to, and where you can still stay up to date with me and still stay connected with me. Next year I really want to continue to work on projects. I want to still work with brands and do my content creation when I can, and I just really want to see where next year takes me. And I think that I've got so much to be happy about and grateful for. I've got my wonderful guide dog Rosie, who I absolutely adore. I have got the job I always wanted. I've got a platform. I am really in a good place right now, and it's a nice feeling to actually be able to say that after all the mental health struggles I've had this year, I am actually in a good place and a better place than I was earlier on in the year. And I just want to say honestly how grateful I am to all of you for being a part of my journey and for sticking with me and for being so supportive. And I really hope you continue to stay and stick with me whilst I work out this next part of my life as a working adult and a working gal, which is something I've always wanted. And I hope you stay with me through that as well. And honestly, thank you all so much for everything you've done for me over the past few years, and for just being such a great group of people to be a part of, and for being such an amazing audience, and for sticking with me and for being so supportive. It really means a lot. Have an amazing Christmas or end of year, whatever you're doing. I hope you have an amazing rest of 2022, and I hope 2023 is a good year for you all, and I love you all very much. Hopefully I'll see you again soon. I want to make my annual what I got for Christmas video, but let me know if you want me to make that or not, because I'll make it if you want me to. I don't mind either way, so let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do that again. And I absolutely love you all so much, and I will see you again soon. Mwah! Bye everybody!